Hey colorettes and color studs, it's me Debbie and welcome to another ColorIt tutorial featuring the new ColorIt Watercolor Brush Pens. Let's take a look at the difference between traditional watercolor and watercolor brush pens. I think the biggest difference between the two is that traditional watercolor uses more supplies. You'll need your watercolor, different brushes, water, and tissue paper to name a few. The downside is that you'll spend more money, especially in buying brushes. A traditional watercolor setup can also take more time and effort to use, clean, and maintain. Let's compare traditional watercolor with a ColorIt watercolor brush pen side by side. What are their similarities and differences? Let's see. Anybody up for a solid color swatch? Let's do it! I'm going to take this brush here, dip it in water, and use this pretty purple for our swatch. As you can see, building the color takes a bit longer, depending on how wet the brush is. I can also see a bit of grain on the paper. This is because traditional brushes can absorb more water. This is great if you're doing a wash. The downside? It takes a bit of time to dry. I don't want to risk damaging our paper, so I'm going to let the pigments settle and dry for now. While waiting, let's take Laid Back Lavender from our ColorIt Watercolor Brush Pen set and see how it compares to old school watercolor. The great thing about watercolor brush pens is that you don't have to dip them in water if you don't want to. The colors are also more consistent and buildable. See how quickly we achieved our desired solid color? Pretty nifty, right? As for traditional watercolor, it takes more time to build the colors into something more opaque. You might have to do a bit of trial and error to achieve the shade you want. You'll also need to switch brushes to achieve certain techniques. Let's try doing a wash or gradient using this orange color. Traditional watercolor first. Let's dip this brush in water and lay out our strokes. As with our previous swatch, you can see that the pigments on traditional watercolor can move around or get activated, preventing us from building that color into the shade we like. I'm gonna leave that to dry for now. Let's see how the watercolor brush pens hold up. Dip it in water for a lighter shade and let's build that up from there. Wow, that was quick. We got our gradient in just a few strokes. You'll have to be more careful with traditional watercolor. Slowly but surely build that color using small, delicate strokes. Traditional watercolor takes a bit of patience and precision when it comes to building a gradient, so just keep at it. Slow and steady does the trick. If you want something more convenient and consistent, stick with watercolor brush pens. Blending is always fun with watercolor. Now, be careful when blending two different colors together using traditional watercolor brushes. Make sure to always clean the brushes whenever you're using different colors to avoid smudging them altogether. In contrast, watercolor brush pens don't need to be wiped and cleaned when blending. In fact, you can even touch two brush tips together to achieve a great blend. Watercolor brush pens have a deeper, more solid color too. Let's check out the strokes and lines made by the different brushes. I'm thinking we should make a flower or clover to test these babies. In traditional watercolor, you have to keep switching from one brush to another to achieve different strokes and lines. With watercolor brush pens, you can use the same pen to produce a variety of strokes. It's more precise, and hey, I can even do some shading with one brush pen. In conclusion, I have to say that using ColorIt's watercolor brush pens is easier and way more convenient. You don't have to use a lot of brushes, nor do you need a complicated setup. Really, all you need are your pens and high-quality paper, and you're good to go. They also yield a more consistent color. Blending and building the shades is way easier too. Now we know that ColorIt's watercolor brush pens can hold their own against traditional watercolor. That's it for today's tutorial, guys. I hope you had lots of fun. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more awesome content from us. If you have any comments and suggestions, don't hesitate to drop a comment below because we love talking to you guys. This has been Debbie. Have fun with your brush pens and coloring pages, and as always, free your creativity.